Will the real MVP please stand up? Oh, and look at that. It's Josh Allen. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, The Legacy, Louis DiBiase. On today's show, we are going to break down one of the most incredible weekends of football that I have seen in my entire life. Before we dive into all the big games, all the big moments, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Louis, just an insane weekend of football starting Thursday night with your Eagles winning. Then the Friday night game in Brazil with the Chargers, a great football game with the Justin Herbert slide for the century. Then we get to Sunday in the opening window. So many close games. We're going to talk about the Bucs. We're going to talk about the Packers. But of course, we have to start with this Sunday night classic, a little scoregami. The Buffalo Bills win 41-40, come back from 15 points down in the fourth quarter to win the game. And Louis, I got to tell you, my big takeaway here after watching that is not only did Josh Allen play incredible and make the clutch plays at the end, but it stamps that he was the real MVP of last year. He beat Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. He beats Lamar Jackson now being down by double digits late in the game. And Josh Allen, when the game was on the line, made the biggest play possible.
So I'm a big NBA fan, right? And I watched LeBron James for years carry the Cleveland Cavaliers with rosters that weren't really that good. This was 2018 LeBron James, game one of the NBA Finals against that super team of the Golden State Warriors, just putting that roster on his back, carrying them in a game they had no business even being in. That was Josh Allen today. I mean, that was one of the... You just feel so grateful at times when you know you're witnessing history. Like, that was one of the greatest regular season games in the history of this league. Like, it's, Tyler, it's up there with 2018 Chiefs-Rams, where you know during the game, you're like, I'm witnessing history. Yeah. That I just love watching elite quarterback play where a star just puts the roster on his back and just will refuse to lose. And I don't want to say Josh Allen has already wrapped up the 2025 MVP award, but it feels that way, man. Like, that was an incredible performance to do that against such a talented Baltimore roster. Just an all-time great performance. And I was 10 minutes down the road from the stadium, and you could hear the vibes. I mean, the people that left, I am so sorry, because that game was just an all-time classic.
Yeah, 100%. Imagine leaving that game and then seeing the finish. Absolutely nuts. But look, we talk about the Buffalo side of this. Josh Allen was incredible. I thought Joey Bosa made some plays, which is what you want. I mean, it's tough to track down. When Lamar Jackson made that play in the backfield where he got away from Bosa and the other defender and then turned it into, it was like, oh my God, Lamar Jackson is so incredible. And Lamar Jackson is absolutely incredible. Derrick Henry, absolutely incredible as well with his 2 touchdowns. But at the end of the day, it did unravel for the Ravens. And my guy Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens talked about the massive disappointment.
I have no words. Absolutely none. The Baltimore Ravens fall one of their worst regular season losses I have ever seen to the Buffalo Bills, 41-40 on Sunday Night Football. I'm Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. Nobody beats the Baltimore Ravens like the Baltimore Ravens. It's a tale as old as time. You can insert any year in there. The Ravens had this game what felt like wrapped up, 40-25, a couple minutes into the fourth quarter, and then it was penalties, it was turnovers, it was mental mistakes, it was bad play calling. I can go on and on and on. On a night where Lamar Jackson was mostly magical, same with Derrick Henry despite his fumble, the Ravens just throw this game away. They are 0-1. The Bills now, they will have the tiebreaker over them in terms of head-to-head record, and it felt like the Ravens missed so many opportunities throughout this game. So, to me, Ravens have to bounce back in a big way in week 2. This is a demoralizing loss in more ways than one. You have Tyler Luke missing an extra point, Jerry Alexander with multiple gaffes, just the team in general, the defense giving up 40 points all across the board. Really rough night for the Ravens at the end of it after a lot of positive momentum. So for more on the Ravens and this devastating loss, be sure to check out the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
And here's a crazy stat for you, Louie, just to kind of punctuate how the Ravens find a way to do this. Kevin made a great point that the team that beats the Ravens the best is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have now lost 8 games since 2021 in which they, at one point in the game, had a win probability of at least 90%. That's 3 more losses of that kind than any other team in the NFL, according to Benjamin Solak. So, I tried to be honest. I have been very critical of Lamar. Speaking of NBA, I've made the, Joel Embiid, James Harden comparisons with him. Now, I think he deserves a little more credit than maybe like a James Harden or Joel Embiid for his consistent greatness. But at the end of the day, he's not clutch. He's just not clutch. Lamar makes great plays. He has game-winning drives. I know you can find it, but in the big moments, in these big-time matchups, we go back to a year ago. Last year, week 1, they almost won. Isaiah Likely's toe is on the line.
The playoff game at Buffalo.
Exactly, dude. It just doesn't end. At some point, they just got to win it, and it can't be everybody else's fault.
Can I take back my Ravens Super Bowl pick from our last episode, man? I'm feeling the regret already. Eventually, this just becomes who you are. When you lose like this all of the time in different ways, whether it's a Mark Andrews drop or a Derrick Henry fumble or a Lamar Jackson interception, eventually this just becomes who you are. And that stat, like you said, shows it. This game was a perfect representation of who the Ravens are and who Josh Allen is. Josh Allen now, I think all time in the 21st century, he is now 4th in fourth quarter passing yards. In Baltimore, like you just said, since 2021, all they do is choke games away like this, whether it's in the regular season it's against great teams or in the playoffs. And so eventually, you just got to call a spade. As much as I love Lamar Jackson and believe that this was maybe, if it's not the number 1 roster in football, it's number 2 behind the Philadelphia Eagles. Eventually, you doesn't matter. You have to be able to get it done when it matters most. Number 17 in Buffalo can do that even when he doesn't have that Baltimore roster. And unfortunately for Lamar and Derrick Henry and that entire Ravens team, they just haven't been able to get it done. And I just don't know if they'll get that monkey off their back. This game did not show me that they're any closer to doing that.
Right, and if you're a Ravens fan, you got to feel like you're stuck in Groundhog Day, where you just can't break through in some of these moments. And at the end of the day, we put all of it on the players. We talk about the players, Derrick Henry fumble, Lamar Jackson, but at some point you do look at John Harbaugh too, where this is the qualities of his team, and it has to be in their head a little bit. Now, I do want to say, Josh Allen, like you said, spectacular. I saw a stat early on Sunday where players to have 7 rushing touchdowns or more in 4 consecutive seasons or every season of their career, something like that, and there was only 3 other guys who had done it, and they were all running backs. And then it was Josh Allen.
Ridiculous.
It is. But I do want to say this. While Buffalo pulled it off, it wasn't all great, all right? And my guy Jeremy from the Locked On Bills squad show, he is a little concerned.
The Buffalo Bills defense gets roasted, run over, and embarrassed by Derrick Henry in the season opener. The Ravens run roughshod over the Bills, and Buffalo's defense, they got to find some answers and find them fast. Come chat about it with us on the Bills Squad show and on the Locked On Bills channel.
I can only imagine how much fun that Bills Squad show would be. Jeremy did kind of sound like one of those fans that might have left the game early, though. But he's right. He's right. If you're a Bills fan, you're excited. This is one of the best wins ever. Awesome. But in the back of your mind, you do got to wonder, Sean McDermott's defense has been what's let this team down when they haven't been able to get it done. It's not Josh. That's the difference between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson to me is Josh Allen does play his best in the biggest moments, and it's his defense that lets him down, where Lamar has not had his best performances in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, Buffalo won. But I do think I picked Buffalo to win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl. I feel good about that. I don't want to take it back, but that defense, Sean McDermott's a defensive coach. You need to see better than that from this team.
I'm starting to believe they can win it all, though, because what I didn't believe with the Bills, to win a championship, you need more than one alpha that can make those game-changing plays. And Josh Allen's been the only one making them. While the defense was a concern today, I saw both Ed Oliver on defense and Keon Coleman on offense take over in moments, make game-changing plays when number 17 needs somebody else to step up. So that kind of did convince me that Buffalo can win it all, even despite all the points they gave up today. Like, seeing the performance of Ed Oliver and Keon Coleman made me think, okay, maybe they do have it this time. So, I mean, what an incredible performance. Again, like I said, one of the greatest regular season games I've ever seen.
And I'm 100% with you there. One of the concerns about Buffalo that we talked about before the season was, do they have star players outside of Josh Allen who will step up and make plays? And if that does come to fruition, they are probably my title favorite. But with that being said, the other team I picked to go to the Super Bowl is the Green Bay Packers, and they whooped the Detroit Lions the same way that the Lions like to whoop everybody else. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. So they do max discounts on Prize Picks all the time, which give you a great start to your lineup. Like, for example, you could do Travis Kelce more than half a receiving yard, or Patrick Mahomes for more than half a passing yard. Like, they always have some sort of deal to help get your lineup going. 2 to 6 players, more or less. It really is that easy. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Upside. NFL fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offer varies by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, Louie, let's continue today's edition of Locked on NFL. We talked about that incredible Sunday night football game between the Bills and the Ravens, but man, there were some great games early on Sunday as well. And we start with a big-time NFC North matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. The Green Bay Packers are able to pull this one out. They dominate the Detroit Lions in this game. The Packers, man, again, they won this one in kind of the same way that the Lions have been beating people, and that's the number one thing that stood out to my guy Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers.
The Green Bay Packers did to the Detroit Lions what the Detroit Lions have been doing to everyone else for 2 straight years, and that is win up front, dominate in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and it started on the very first drive. Jordan Love and the Packers marched right down the field. 3 third-down conversions. Jordan Love had all day to throw every time he dropped back to pass. Did the Packers have a lot of running room? No, that's because the Lions were selling out to stop Josh Jacobs and daring the Packers to beat them against man coverage. And guess what? The Packers beat them in man coverage with consistency. Romeo Doubs on a play-action shot play. Matthew Golden on a third down. Dontavian Wicks on a third down. And then you get the touchdown at the end. it was the perfect way to start.
I mean, he's not wrong. It is the perfect way to kick off the season because what Detroit had over you was their physicality. And if you can not only match that, but beat that, I mean, this wasn't a super close game. It was 27-13. The game really wasn't that close. I mean, at halftime, it was 17-3. Green Bay really controlled this one. If Green Bay has finally grown up and they're finally ready to be an adult team after being the youngest roster, we hear that all the time. If they finally grown up, then they're going to be a force to reckon with. And Micah Parsons barely played in this game. I mean, they used him sparingly. And at the end, he seals it with a sack. And it's just one of these things where you look at it and you're just like, man, everything's finally in place for the Packers. And that's why I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and I feel even more confident about that. I know the Eagles are a great team. They are. But the Packers look like they're ready to at least give them a challenge.
And so I obviously cover the Eagles for Locked On Eagles, so I compare a lot of things to the Birds. But the Micah Parsons trade kind of reminds me of the A.J. Brown trade for Philadelphia in 2022, where it was a young team that made the playoffs, the wild card round, but clearly weren't a title contender. They were one true star away with some maturity of the rest of the roster, another step from the quarterback, from becoming a title contender. And that's what it looked like, at least for one game. I don't want to overreact, but I'm with you. They looked like a Super Bowl contender. I picked them to be number 2 in the NFC and make it to the NFC Championship to play Philadelphia. Again, I don't want to overreact, but that's what I saw on Green Bay side. And for Detroit, Tyler, like, I thought they were going to take a step back this year. I can't believe what a shell of what they used to be they looked like today without Ben Johnson. Like, that offense looked, and they still have a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. They looked inept without Ben Johnson. Jared Goff just seemed like a quarterback, and I think we kind of knew this already, but somebody that just cannot elevate when he doesn't have an elite play caller. I couldn't believe how out of sync that offense looked at Detroit.
Yeah, it was insane. And, I mean, they rushed for 2.1 yards per carry. 9 carries for 19 yards for Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery, 11 for 25. That offensive line was the pillar of what they did, and they got bullied today. And I know that they're shuffling some parts, and not everybody's healthy up front and stuff like that, but that's what happens when you play that style of football for years and years and years. You do start to wear down as your players get a little bit older, and you make these deep postseason runs. And then, again, you lose Ben Johnson, one of the most creative offensive minds in the NFL. And we'll talk about Ben Johnson. What a massive game on Monday night that we'll finish with for today's edition of Locked On NFL. But yeah, I think it was not only impressive that the Packers won, but the fashion in which they did it and the way they went about it was super, super impressive. Now, I want to talk about another game that really impressed me. And, you know, maybe it's a little home cooking because I picked this guy for MVP, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What an incredible game with the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons go down, score at the very end. Michael Penix makes an incredible scramble on 4th down to get a first down, gets a touchdown, goes ahead, but then the Buccaneers come right back. Emeka Egbuka with a post route from Baker Mayfield to take the lead, 23-20. The Bucs win, and my guy James Yarko from Locked On Bucs broke down the victory.
It wasn't pretty, but the Buccaneers get a 23-20 road victory over the Atlanta Falcons. A shocking move to shuffle the offensive line right before the game started. Starting center Graham Barton moves to left tackle. Starting left guard Ben Bredesen moves to center. And then practice squad promotion player Michael Jordan gets the start at left guard. Baker wasn't at his best. The defense gave up a 50-yard Bijan Robinson touchdown on the opening drive for the Falcons, but the Buccaneers make enough plays to get the job done. Rookie wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, 2 touchdowns in this game, including the one that would end up being the game winner. Chase McLaughlin was not himself, missed a field goal, missed an extra point. But Antoine Winfield Jr. comes up big at the end of the game with a pass breakup to Casey Washington on what would have been a touchdown. Then Younghoe Koo misses the 44-yard field goal that could have sent this game into overtime. For more on this and all things Buccaneers, check out the Locked On Bucs podcast 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Here's my thing. If not now, then when for the Falcons? I know that Caleb McGarry's out, but he ain't coming back, you know? Like, Tristan Wirfs is coming back. Chris Godwin is coming back. Like, this is not the best version of the Buccaneers. And if you're the Falcons, you're at home, you're leading early, you get the Bijan Robinson thing, you take the lead late in the fourth quarter like you're going to win, you drive down, you get in field goal range, and you still can't find a way to win this game at home in this is going to be a critical game for the playoffs late with how the Falcons are the only team that I think in the South that has a chance to compete with the Bucs. So if the Falcons can't even win in the environment that they were in, when could they win? I'm even more bold. I guess if you want to call it week one overreaction, I'm even more bold in my belief in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that division. And they just, this is maybe the worst version of the Bucs we're going to see with all that offensive line shuffling. It's only going to get better, and they're only going to get better as a team.
I agree with you from the perspective of Tampa Bay being now clearly the favorite to win the NFC South. This showed that. But if I am an Atlanta Falcons fan and I just even want to make the playoffs and I picked them to be the 7 seed in the NFC this year, I think you should be encouraged by this performance, because for me, I picked them to make the playoffs because I really like their roster around Michael Penix, the weapons on offense, the offensive line, even with the injury. I like the improvements they made on defense, but Penix showed today he can carry that offense. He can elevate in the clutch. He made some incredible plays late, so I'm even more in on the Falcons, though, from the perspective I think they can compete for a wild card spot. But I am with you. Baker looked elite, and Tampa Bay clearly is in another tier. Not just in that division, but I think they belong up there at the top of the conference. And they don't get mentioned in the same breath as Philadelphia and now Green Bay and Detroit, when I think they kind of belong there.
No, I'm 100% with you. I think the Buccaneers do belong there. I do want to say with the Falcons, Michael Penix looked really sharp in that game. He made plays with his legs. I agree with you. If you're a Falcons fan, you have to feel somewhat encouraged, even though I know it's probably super disappointing with the way things played out. But you know who wasn't disappointing on Sunday? Aaron Rodgers. What an incredible game in Gotham City. We got to talk about that. Monday Night Football ahead. Again, one of the best weekends of football that we've ever seen. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. The NFL season is so back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast. It's easy. It's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you pay. I love Game Time because, again, they do have the best features in the industry. I mean, a panoramic view from your seat so you know what you're going to be looking at, all-in pricing, the Game Time guarantee, like we mentioned. I've bought NFL, college football tickets. I'm going to a game next Saturday night. Got my tickets on Game Time. Basketball, NBA, WNBA, I've bought it. MLB, concerts, comedy, they got it all. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, Louie, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On NFL podcast, breaking down week one in the NFL. And we got to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers taking down the New York Jets, which so many incredible games that we're talking about, but this one in the early window was absolutely riveting, back and forth. Who would have thought that the Steelers and the Jets would have been a big-time shootout? But my guy Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers broke down the win.
Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast with your post-game reaction after the Steelers' 34-32 win over the New York Jets. The Steelers walked into MetLife Stadium, and I wasn't sure their offense was going to have the explosion it did, but my goodness, did they. Aaron Rodgers showing why the Steelers waited till June to sign him, throwing 4 touchdown passes, 244 yards through the air, looking efficient in doing so, finding Ben Skoranek, Jalen Warren, Jonnu Smith, and Calvin Austin in the end zone for the Steelers, showing his ability to go through the offense, know where to go with the ball, looked very solid in doing so. Calvin Austin also having a really big day, in my opinion, showing maybe he is the wide receiver to the Steelers want moving forward. But the defense did struggle for most of the game. They allowed way too many rushing yards. Up front was getting bullied for most of the game, but they came up in the clutch. Cam Hayward with the late run stuff, Alex Highsmith with a big sack, and then Jalen Ramsey with two big breakups, including that boom of a hit that he delivered on Garrett Wilson that won the game. We'll break all of that down on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Find us on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube.
Now, let me say this, Louie. Shout out to all of my co-hosts, everybody who's on here. But there are some people who gave me pushback when I said Aaron Rodgers is clearly better than Russell Wilson at football. He has always been better than Russell Wilson at football, and Rodgers is an upgrade over Wilson, and it may be a week one overreaction, and Rodgers is an older guy, so it could fall apart, but Russell Wilson looks shot, and it looked like they need to put Jackson Dart in there right now, and Rodgers, on the other hand, first Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback ever to have 4 touchdown passes in his debut. And he wasn't just sitting in the pocket doing Tom Brady quick. He was doing those bootlegs that Arthur Smith uses in his wide zone run scheme. He was getting on the move, also mixing in that shotgun stuff. I think the Steelers are only going to get better, and for them to perform this way straight out of the gate, I picked the Steelers to make the playoffs in the AFC. I feel great about that right now. They do need to be better at running the football. That is going to be a concern. Broderick Jones, their young offensive tackle who they took in the first round a couple of years ago, had a rough day. Like, the Jets' D-line really gave it to the Steelers early on, but man, could not be more impressed with Aaron Rodgers, and the Steelers are just the Steelers. They made big plays in the end and got the win.
Yeah, so one of the co-hosts he's talking about is me. I'll raise my hand. I thought Russell Wilson was a better player than Aaron Rodgers heading into the year. So I'll eat crow on that. Week 1, you looked right.
Week 1 at least.
But I'll give myself some flowers. I was in on the New York Jets and Justin Fields, and I think
they look good too.
I think this is a moral victory for the New York Jets because I think for both teams, the concern was the offense. I think both teams knew the defense would make them competitive this year, but the concerns were about Rodgers and Fields as QB1. Well, the fact that they got into a shootout against good defenses is a really good sign for both sides. Fields was incredible today, not just rushing, but some of the tight window throws he made today, like getting him on the move and RPO, they reminded me of a poor man's version of the Philadelphia Eagles. If you use Fields to his strengths, like, yes, he's a limited quarterback, but I think he could be a poor man's Jalen Hurts that can compete for a wild card spot, and today kind of confirmed that to me, even in a loss.
No, that's 100% the takeaway, is this wasn't, good game from Justin Fields like last year at the beginning of the year with the Steelers where it's mostly running around and he's not throwing the ball and he's scrambling. Like, this was a professional quarterback
That's
game.
A first-round quarterback, it looked like, in that game.
Yes. Justin Fields looked like he could be the answer long-term for the Jets if he continues to play that way. I was incredibly impressed with his winning from the pocket, diagnosing the defense. Again, pinpoint accurate throws, and the connection that he has with Garrett Wilson is real. I mean, they played together in college, 7 catches, 95 yards and a touchdown. And look, Garrett Wilson is a great player. We know that, but he never got fully on track with Aaron Rodgers last year, and he said he hasn't talked to him since. And I don't think it's that weird that, you know, how many jobs have you had where you go back and talk to your coworkers who are 20 years older
Especially the one
than
that's
you?
20. Yeah, I was going to say.
Exactly. So, like, I just think that the chemistry naturally between those two guys could result in some big plays. They ran the ball all over the Steelers. I mean, they ran for 182 yards, whether it was Fields or whether it was Hall going for 107.
Yeah, Hall was great.
It was just a really encouraging performance from the Jets, even if they didn't win the game.
And Fields made the play, by the way. Garrett Wilson got licked by Jalen Ramsey, but I'll even give Justin Fields made the play to potentially get them in field goal range. So that was an incredible game as well.
Yeah, absolutely a great game to watch, and I'm hoping that we finish this great week of football with another excellent game. We go to the Monday night matchup. We have the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears, and both these teams, their quarterbacks are under pressure. Now, J.J. McCarthy is under pressure because this is going to be his first start. He's got the reins. Everybody's looking at him. But all of the stuff, Ty Dunn did some incredible reporting and incredible work. He's a football journalist about what went wrong with the Bears in 2024 and whether it's the GM laughing at Drake May's tape, which Drake May had his struggles, but he might have been better, might be better than Caleb Williams still. To laugh him off, I think, is laughable. And then Caleb Williams and the way he treated his coaches and didn't respond, and it kind of confirms some of the worst things that people have to say about Caleb Williams on the outside. I think where J.J. McCarthy needs to prove himself, for me, Caleb Williams needs to prove to his teammates that he's locked in and can be the leader of that franchise. Because if that reporting, which I believe it is true, if that reporting about Caleb Williams and walking away from his coaches and ignoring his coaches and, doing different things, Matt Eberflus's staff was not good last year, so you could give Caleb Williams that, but it just is not a good sign of a leader. And I think Caleb Williams has something to prove to his team that, yeah, I know I acted out last year, but I'm in now.
Yeah, I think this game is so fascinating because of all that stuff. And you look at the Vikings side, a 14-win team with basically a rookie quarterback in his second year now that hasn't played. If you could tell me, right, you could tell me both are playoff teams. You could tell me both win 4 to 6 games, and I wouldn't be surprised. So, that's why I'm so interested in this matchup, because I don't know which way it's going to go. I don't know what Caleb's going to look like in this new offense, what J.J. McCarthy's going to look like in year one as a starter. So I think you can make the argument for both sides, and that's why this game is so fascinating, because I just think the variance is so crazy all the way on one end or the other with both teams.
We have where we know that the Ravens and Bills are really good teams, we have no clue who these teams are. And what I find interesting is not only the quarterbacks, but the coaching matchup, because Ben Johnson, I think, is as interesting of a story in what he does with the Bears as anything else. And specifically, we talk about the Lions' struggles. Well, when Ben Johnson was with the Lions, he really put a hurting on Brian Flores, the great defensive coordinator who should be a head coach in the NFL, by the way, the great defensive coordinator from the Vikings. And that's something that on the recent crossover episode between Locked On Vikings and Locked On Bears, my guy Luke Braun, the brain, brought up.
Ben Johnson has had Brian Flores' number the entire time Brian Flores has been here. The Vikings have not beaten Ben Johnson yet. 4 games, 4-0. Ben Johnson has beaten Brian Flores, and Ben Johnson has been the one to really crack the code of Brian Flores' defense more than anybody else. This is the matchup to me that I think defines so much of the NFC North, because how much of Ben Johnson's ability to beat Brian Flores, of course, what does that mean for the Bears? How much of the Lions' success in general was he responsible for?
Well, we might be getting some of those answers, but the question is, does that carry over to the Bears? Because the Bears don't have as good of a roster as the Lions had in the last few years. So whether Ben Johnson just owns Brian Flores or not, I am looking for that, because I think the Bears can win this game, but they're going to need their offense to lead the charge.
If this game is competitive, I think you can make the argument this was one of the best week ones, if not the best one I've ever seen, man. I mean, what an incredible few days. And this is going to be a great game too tomorrow. I think it's going to be super competitive.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a fantastic watch. But with that being said, I'm going to be back with you guys tomorrow. We'll have Lauren's got a lot on his plate tomorrow with that Monday night game, so I'm making no promises with you guys now. But either way, I will be back to break down what happens on Monday night, and we're going to do some overreacting, I think, this week, whether these overreactions are true, false, or whether we need some more information. So what an incredible start to the NFL season. Thank you all so much for being here with us at the Locked On NFL podcast. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Legacy, Louis DiBiase. As we tell you every single episode, thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.